As we come on the air tonight, a court case on the other side of the Atlantic is being connected to the mass shooting that happened right here in Buffalo earlier this year. The question, could a teenager in Britain be held accountable for the racist massacre at the Tops supermarket? This case involves a 19-year-old from Derbyshire, England, named Daniel Harris. He was just convicted of 5 counts of encouraging terrorism due to videos that he uploaded to the internet over the past 2 years. Those videos, among other things, called for people to violently fight against a, quote, planned genocide against white people. And in that case, the Times of London reports that British prosecutors claim that those videos inspired the Tops shooter, Peyton Gendron, to carry out his attack, saying that Gendron included an image from one of Harris' videos in his manifesto and commented online on those videos. Harris was arrested in England not long after celebrating the Tops shooting on camera. Well, now there is a chance that he could face extradition here to the United States. Joining us live to discuss is Frank LoTempio the Third, a local attorney and legal analyst for us. Frank, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, anytime.
So first off, what is the legal argument here that Harris has any real connection to the Tops shooting? I mean, I guess it's one thing to post hateful things that someone else could be motivated by, but how could there actually be some type of criminal prosecution for something like that?
I don't know if there can be. I mean, I think he could be prosecuted again, maybe under something for promoting terrorism, which you'd have to look to the United States Code for, because certainly I don't think there's anything under the New York penal law, which we've seen that the DA's office, I don't think will do anything here locally. But I don't think that there's much of a nexus. And I think it's going to be, any case would be very difficult to prove that there's a nexus between what the Tops shooter did and this inspiration from this person in the UK.
Frank, you mentioned the Erie County District Attorney's Office. In these reports, they're talking about potential extradition. We certainly know that's not going to be happening here in Erie County. I want to show our viewers the quote here that we got from the DA's office in Erie County saying, quote, "Our office has no evidence that this individual committed a violation of the New York State penal law in Erie County. Therefore, we have not submitted any request to have this individual extradited to the United States." So as you alluded to there, if this happened, it will be something with the feds, right? The U.S. Attorney's Office hasn't gotten back to us on that yet. But if that happened federally, how would we see that kind of playing out?
Yeah, first of all, I see no evidence that it could be done in New York under New York law, and the Erie County District Attorney's Office, I'm sure, would not have quite frankly, the wherewithal and the resources to go get them and retrieve him from UK. But from a United States standpoint, I mean, you could potentially have those promoting terrorism laws. What would happen is something similar to, if you remember, Julian Assange, right? I mean, you have something in a situation where the U.S. would file a criminal complaint. They would certainly notify the country where they would like to extradite from, and then there would be an extradition proceeding in that country where they would make a decision where it is something that is an offense that fits their extradition treaty with the United States. So, I mean, it's a really complicated and very esoteric area where you're talking about treaties and you're talking about other governments getting together to decide whether there will be an extradition at all.
We've talked a lot about what inspired the shooter to carry out this racist massacre. Social media has been mentioned, obviously some prior awful attacks, but this is one of the first instances in which there's a prosecution of someone somewhere else in which they're mentioned as possibly being an inspiration for the killer here. So even if there's no kind of criminal prosecution of that person, it does, I think, it's eye-opening to people here as they continue to follow this case, and it makes everybody wonder, if nothing criminally happens, what about a civil suit? I mean, we've heard from families of Tops victims obviously seeking justice through all of this. You wouldn't imagine a 19-year-old who is now in jail and convicted of terrorism charges in England would have much in terms of assets. But is there an opening for something like that?
I don't think so. First of all, they would have to have jurisdiction over, the courts would have to have jurisdiction over that person. That person's in England, and I don't think that there's there's 2 different types of jurisdiction. There's subject matter jurisdiction, is whether you can file a lawsuit for a certain cause of action, and there's personal jurisdiction. Is that person have a nexus with the court where you're going to file a lawsuit? I don't think that there would be personal jurisdiction. I don't even know if there'd be subject matter jurisdiction from the standpoint is what are they going to sue them for? Promoting terrorism, and how do they have a stake in that other than their family members were, and their families were involved in this horrible shooting that was certainly, part of this whole, this video and this promotion. But I think it's a very, very, very weak nexus to have any civil suit against him.
Yeah, we see these newspaper articles that are just coming out due to this case again in England. And so thanks so much for helping us kind of understand how this could potentially play out. Frank LoTempio the Third is president of the LoTempio PC Law Group. Have a great weekend, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you, you too.